Well, we had a young minor boy in a supervised situation that he had to go to the restroom, and he had to go to an unsupervised situation to go to the restroom, and there were some unfortunate things that were alleged to have occurred, when he was in that unsupervised area. Well, the very first thing we did is we immediately gathered our administrative team and the people involved to find out what the story was, because usually those stories kind of evolve and they come out slowly piece by piece, and tried to figure out, a proper response to it. And we immediately contacted our insurance agent and insurance carrier, pretty quickly to try to find out how should we respond to these things, because it's not something you're trained all the time. You don't really anticipate always something like that, so that could very well wind up in court, costing you a lot of money, bad publicity, and it's best to try to get a hold of professionals, people that have been there and done that. And the insurance carrier provided a lot of help. They have a legal team. They can tell us how to properly respond, how to do things, and there's resource. When you take out, with Guide One, it wasn't just us and our agent. It was the whole team that Guide One provided, and it was a resource that was very valuable. They're trying to guide us through the process. Guide One, they guided us through the process of how to do this, not to hide anything, but just what's the best way to honestly approach the situation and try to resolve it and take care of it. First of all, we discovered that the child was basically acting out things that had occurred to him off of our campus. So there are a lot of things out of your control. What happened to him, in some instances, in his other situations in his extended family, was brought into our school. He wasn't taught how to do these things to another child in the school setting at all, or a daycare setting. But it was something that the victim becomes the victimizer, is the first thing we found out. And the other thing is preparation. You can read in the manuals that Guide One sends out, or what your agent might tell you, things that you need to do in the design of your building, or just policies. And you think, yeah, I need to do that next week. We got to change that policy manual. The thing we found out is we need to implement right away policies and procedures to prevent these things. Because just thinking about doing it is not enough. We didn't cross all of our T's and dot our I's, and we had a situation. You basically have to look at the entire situation that you're involved in and try to figure out what can go wrong, because it will go wrong. In our situation, the daycare room was supervised, but to send them to the restroom caused us to send them to an unsupervised area. And it was within a Christian school, so you'd think, oh, there's no problem there. But as our pastor said many times, the devil fell out of heaven. So anywhere, in any situation, you can't control things completely, but you can control a lot of things if you pre-plan, if you just look at some of the policies that other schools have, and the insurance carrier is very good. They're very familiar with policies and procedures that can help you prevent these things. But you gotta do them. You can't think about it. We discovered that sexual misconduct can happen anywhere. It can happen in our church, it can happen in our school, at any time. And you just can't anticipate that just because you're in a church or in a Christian school or a daycare that's Christian, that evil's not going to pop its head up. You've just got to assume the worst and plan for that to prevent it from happening as much as possible. Look at the situation that you're involved in. Try to anticipate anything that can go wrong in your policies that you write, and in even the physical layout of your facility. Make sure that it doesn't lend itself to any unsupervised things. You need to have a team of people help you develop policy, look at other people's policies, and then even have your insurance agent look at those policies, or some of their people look at the policies. Because with Guide one of the assets that they brought to the table was a team of lawyers that we could consult with, that are actively working on other cases like this with other schools and with other churches and other daycares. And so they've been there, they've done that, not in terms of they've been the ones who have propagated these things, but they're defending people who've been into this, and they had some very good advice for us to consider that we wish we would have done beforehand. We're even redesigning our facility. Specifically in our case, we're locating the bathroom in the actual daycare room. So the person that watches the kids in the daycare can also supervise people going into the bathroom. So you don't want to have any unsupervised activity, especially if we're dealing with little ones. This unfortunate incident got our attention. Fortunately, we didn't have to face any legal action because of the advice that we got and the things that we did, not to prevent this from happening, but after the fact. So it's a lot better to try to prevent these things from happening than to have to try to figure out how to clean up a mess afterwards. So just preventing things, thinking about policy before you get into situations is what I recommend. Looking at all aspects of just your program. It's just almost impossible to cover every base, but you can cover almost all of them and make yourself a lot less prone to any litigation or any problems in the future. I've been with our church and our school for almost 35 years now. And the way things were done 35 years ago, the risk that you had to try to avoid and the risk that you have to avoid today, there's no comparison. There's every shadow, around every corner, there seems to be risk today. And you've got to just be vigilant. You've got to take the time to write things down, to train your people, and try to anticipate the different risks that you can fall into, the different traps. And having a company that provides, has a stake in risk management helps a lot. We didn't feel like we were alone in the process, that when we got into this bad situation, we could call up Guide One and they gave us some really good advice of what to do, and it helped us prevent a lawsuit. And the parties involved were satisfied that we were taking the steps to correct things. That's one of the things they wanted. There are some good people out there that just want to make sure, they're not just out to sue you right away and get some money, but they want to make sure that you don't do this in the future. And so Guide One was very good in helping us to hone our policies, to make them better, and just different suggestions of how to prevent this in the future was a very good peace of mind that we had. That's an expectation that I have, and one of the reasons why we changed carriers is because I felt with Guide One we had someone that we could contact and give us real answers about what was going on and real help. Because most of this time, these things are new to us. They're brand new. First time, I've been involved with school for 35 years. This is the first time in 35 years we had such a situation. And after 34 years, you think, oh, it'll never happen to us. The grace of God will keep us going. But, the Lord requires that you do due diligence and make sure that you think about things and just think about what can go wrong, because it probably will go wrong. It was the grace of God that kept us, out of trouble for 34 years. And it was the help of Guide One and just the Lord that kept us out of trouble in the 35th year. But now we feel like we have policies in place and have changed some just different things, the way we do things, that'll help us tremendously in the future.